9 a.m. What's up? How you doing? Woo! I feel like I catch a different clip in that video every single time, and I'm sort of embarrassed to admit that the clip I caught this time was Patrick Swayze. Dirty. I know I'm not supposed to see Dirty Dancing, but I married a girl named Stacy, and nobody puts baby in a corner. That's her favorite movie. Okay, so man, worship was so good. I don't even need to preach. We're good, I think. And there's always new people on the stage. Nate will get you on the stage. If you're like, hey, I'm an introvert, you're probably gonna be singing up here next week, okay? So Marianne and Nolly, those are first times up here. And didn't they do good? Can't we just give it up for them? That was amazing. So good. I'm psyched you guys are here, and it's a holiday weekend. And so thanks for coming to church. You get bonus points for that. And I know that there's new people in the room. If you're here for the first time, I'm so glad you're here. I went to 2 different kind of like social things this past week, and I was like the fly on the wall at them. I was not in charge of it. I just went, and it was so awkward. And like going somewhere new is awkward. And so like I know that if you're here for the first time, you're probably like, what am I getting into? Listen, we're just trying to make it as painless as possible for you. I'm glad you're here, and I'd love to meet you after the service. I'll be out in the lobby just so you can stop by and say hello. So thank you to our first-time guests. Big shout out to our online family right now. And I want to point out one of our OG online family people, Mark right here and Debbie. Can you guys just like put your hand up in the air? I don't want to like... Mark has been in my phone for like 7 years as Philly Mark, because he used to be the guy in Philly who listened to us, but he's now Pennsylvania Mark. He's not Philly Mark, right? Am I right? You're in Pennsylvania? Yeah, that's Pennsylvania. Seems like he's given up on Philly, all right? He's moving over to Lancaster. But, our online family is real, guys. They're here, okay? And so thank you guys for being here. It's so good to see you. It's been a few years since you've been in the building. They tune in online. So let's just give it up for our online family and for Mark and Debbie. Yeah. Hey, we're in this series called Where's the Party? And I feel like you guys are ready to party a little bit today. I'm happy about that. Last weekend, we named the series Where's the Party because last weekend we looked at Jesus at a wedding party. He showed up with 605 to 908 bottles of wine. Hello. I don't even want to ask how many of you wish you were there, okay? I don't even need to know Bay Shore. But Jesus turning water into wine was his first miracle. Today we're going to look at his second miracle. And Jesus did around 35 miracles. So we'll be done with this series around 2035, okay? But I want to start out a little fun. I always like to start out fun. And that rolling video kind of made me think of this because that rolling video was every single movie from back in the day that I ever saw, okay? And some of them I didn't see, all right? So I want to talk about back in the day. Everybody say back in the day. All right, so back in the day is different for all of us, right? For me, back in the day, it's like Frozen in Time 1992. That's back in the day for me. Actually, we have some pictures. This is back in the day for me, all right? It's Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's Guns N' Roses. Come on, somebody. And it's Longaberger baskets. How many of you remember Longaberger baskets? Oh, my goodness. We would be above ground already. For all you people who spent money on Longaberger, you would be retired right now. My grandmother was the greatest Longaberger customer of all time, okay? And so this is back in the day for me. Back in the day for all of us is different. Maybe it's not 1992 for you. Maybe it's 2002. Maybe it's the 60s or 70s, you hippies. Maybe it's before Jesus was born. I don't know, okay? But we're going to put some back in the day pictures on the screen, and we'll just walk through them. And we got to put pictures up here because some of you will be confused, all right? So back in the day for me was riding in the back of a truck bed. Come on, who remembers that? Yeah. You didn't have Uber. You had a redneck friend with a truck. And I grew up in Gumboro. And some of you have never heard of Gumboro. That's because it's like 7 people there, and all 7 of us were rednecks, okay? And so the way I got around when I was like 8 years old, was in the back of Bruce Esham's farm truck. That's how we got around. Everybody got around in the back of a truck, okay? I would sit in the back of his truck eating a tasty cake with my hair blowing in the wind. You all laughed a little hard at that last part, all right? It's all right. I'm not even going to address it. But my daughter, she turns 10 next month. She's never ridden in the back of a truck. Ever. Like, legally, she's still supposed to be in a booster seat because fun is outlawed, people. When I was 10 years old, I had already driven a pickup truck myself to the Gumber store. That's true. And so that's what we did back in the day. Here's another thing back in the day. You had to watch TV shows at a certain time. You remember that? You just couldn't. Some of you are like, what? Like, why didn't you watch Hulu? There was no Hulu. You had a tube TV and a 10-foot tall satellite in your backyard that directly talked to NASA. Our channels came from space, right? So I remember when I was a kid, Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, Home Improvement came on. You remember Home Improvement? And this was back in the day where you had church on Wednesday night. Remember church on Wednesday night back in the day? And so I would be at church on Wednesday night. We had Royal Rangers, which is like Christian Boy Scouts, okay? And so our whole church showed up on Wednesday night. And from 7 to 8:30, our whole church loved Jesus. At 8:31, the whole church emptied out faster than this town's going to empty out tomorrow at noon. Everybody went home to watch Home Improvement because it came on at 9 o'clock at night, okay? So that's what we did back in the day. You had to watch the show at a certain time. Last thing, how many of you remember answering machines back in the day? You remember answering machines? Woo! Everybody went to Radio Shack and got an answer machine because if you were watching Home Improvement and the phone rang, you could not hit pause. You couldn't watch it later. You had one shot at this. And so Granny, who's got all the Longenberger baskets, who's calling, sorry, Granny, you're going to the answer machine. And so some of you are like, I am so confused right now. And listen, I get confused about back in the day for some of you. If you're a young whippersnapper, I don't understand Snapchat or Kumbaya. So we're all confused, right? But everybody say back in the day. Now, one of y'all stumped me in the lobby a while back with a question. And by the way, I think some of you think all week long, what's the weirdest question we can ask the pastor in the lobby? Look, why you got to do that to me? I've had some weird ones. Okay, out there, I've had somebody ask me, hey, Joel, is Bill Gates the Antichrist? Because I think he wants to put a computer chip in my brain and control me. I'm like, actually, Cotter handles our questions about the Antichrist, okay? Where's Cotter? Somebody asked me in the lobby the other day, they're like, can you explain the book of Revelation to me real fast? I was like, security, Butch, where's Butch? Get this person out. But I actually got a good lobby question a while back, and here's the lobby question. We'll put it on the screen. Hey, Joel, why doesn't Jesus do miracles today like he used to do back in the day? I'm like, okay, that's a good question. Have you ever wondered this before? Anybody ever wondered this question before? I mean, listen, how cool would it be if you could walk over to BB and you walk through there and you're like, hey, you stand up. Hey, you're not sick anymore. Hey, you come back to life. Hey, this procedure for you, it's going to be covered 100% by insurance. That'd be a miracle. That would be a miracle. Or if you're riding down Route 24, you know, the Devil's Highway, and you're stuck in traffic, and so you just say, part. And you get the ambulance treatment. Come on, who would pay money for that? You would pay some money. Somebody's going to try that today. Like, part. It ain't going to work, okay? But like, why doesn't Jesus do miracles today like he did back in the day? And here's my answer. He does. No, for real. He does. Every single time one of you like comes to me and says, hey, I'll beat an addiction. That's a miracle. Every single time somebody in our church comes to me and says, hey, I am cancer free. Like Cheryl, you came and told me one day. That is a miracle. That's a miracle. Married people. When you celebrate an anniversary. That's a miracle. And not just that. If you woke up in a house today, that's a miracle. If you got running water, if you got food in your pantry, that's a miracle. If you root for the Steelers and still have friends, that's a miracle. Listen, Kristen walks in right on time, getting the stink eye from the kids director. Listen, miracles aren't just a back in the day thing, because our God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if he did it then, he can do it again. Come on, somebody. If he did it then, he can do it again. So, with that in mind, have you ever asked for a miracle, though, but you didn't get what you wanted? Has this ever happened? Yes. All right, we'll enter Jesus' second miracle. And let's just kind of walk through this together. We're in John chapter 4, and we'll put up on the screen if you don't have a Bible. And it starts out this way. At the end of the 2 days, Jesus went on to Galilee. He himself had said that a prophet is not honored in his hometown. Now, this always used to confuse me, this bold part. And here's why, okay? The other day I was talking to a guy, and he's part of our church, and he's like, hey, Joel, you'll never guess who I saw at the boat dock the other day. And I was like, who, Noah? Sorry, preacher joke. Anyway, he's like, no, we're there. And my wife was like, is that Jimmy Allen? I think that's Jimmy Allen. Are you Jimmy Allen? And he's like, I am Jimmy Allen. And some of you are like, who is Jimmy Allen? But if Jimmy Allen is going to be like honored in his hometown, like shouldn't Jesus be honored in the Bible? But Jesus is like, hey, like in my hometown, they don't honor me. Now, let me explain why by explaining something that happened to me this morning. How many of you took Route 24 to come to church today? Let me see your hands. Oh, wow. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you. I don't have to come up Route 24 to come to church here anymore. I think the Lord knew that I would be disqualified from ministry if I had to do that. And so I come from the Bethany way up Route 1, and on my way to church every Sunday, I do three things. Number one, I pray. Number two, I eat an off-brand Cliff Bar or almonds. And number three, I listen to Jesus music, not Guns N' Roses. And that's for Mondays, okay? So, anyway, so this morning, all right, I get here, and I pull right up there, and I'm like, I don't remember driving here. I don't remember anything about the last 20 minutes of my life. I may have run over a little old lady in Dewey this morning, and I have no recollection of it. I like blacked out on the way. Have you ever driven somewhere, you get there, and you're like, I don't remember driving here. Has this happened to you before? Listen, raise your hand if this has happened to you before. Raise your hand. Everybody look around. This explains Route 24, right here. But what happened is you're so familiar with the drive that you don't even see it anymore, right? That's exactly why Jesus wasn't honored in his hometown. He was so familiar. He was like little Joey the Builder's boy. He was the one who was in Mary's little grocery car in the Galilee Giant. Like he wasn't Jesus. He was a hometown kid, and they didn't see him. And this week I thought, how many miracles happen in our life every single day that we don't see because we're so familiar with them? Like your kids are a miracle. Tonight's sunset, mark my words, it's going to be a miracle. It's going to be awesome. A clean bill of health, that is a miracle, okay? Miracles happen all the time, all around us, but we stop seeing them because we kind of black out to the miracles. And so, do me a favor today, and would you just look around your life? And would you look for miracles, and would you thank Jesus for them today? Anybody going to do this today? Anybody? Okay, just look around, because things can get so familiar that you don't even see him anymore. And so they didn't really see Jesus in his hometown. So next verse in 46, it says, as he traveled through Galilee, he came to Cana, where he had turned the water into wine. Now pause. Do you think they recognized Jesus in Cana? Yeah, they're like, hey, you're the guy who brought 908 bottles of wine to the wedding party. Like, you turned water into wine. Jesus, here. Honey, can you go to Giant, get a pack of Dasanis? A whole pallet, actually. Like, do you think they recognize him in Cana? Oh, yeah, they recognize him in Cana. And so then it says there was a government official in nearby Capernaum who's what? Whose son was very sick. Now, how many parents do we have in the room? Any parents in the room? Okay. There's always a few people when I ask that question, they were like, not judging, it's just funny. If you're a parent, you probably do this. When your kid is sick or hurt, will you do anything to help them? Won't you do anything to help them? It reminds me of when my daughter was around 4 years old. I actually have a picture of her when she was around 4 years old, this is the greatest picture of all time. I love this picture. But my daughter Nora, her whole life, even when she was 4 years old, all the way till now, she's about to turn 10, she has been obsessed with babies. And if you have a baby in our church, you probably know this because she stalks you, which is cute now. Eventually, it gets you in prison, okay? So we're working with her. But when Nora was around 4, she tried to imagine everything that she could hold was a baby. She would even pick up our dog, 7-pound Eli, and she would put him in a diaper, she would swaddle him, and she would push him through the neighborhood in a stroller. And so our neighbor, basically this is what our neighbors saw all the time. We'll put this picture on the screen. Like this is, this sort of looks like our dog, honestly. All right, we can go back to the other picture, all right. But Nora would turn everything into a baby, walk through our neighborhood. And so I remember one day I walked into our kitchen and my daughter Nora was standing there holding a bottle of bleach like it was a baby. And listen, I say standing there, she kind of looked like she had just walked out of the starboard. Because, listen, the thing was about as heavy as she was. And so she thought she was like rocking it like a baby. I'm like, no, honey, that is bleach. That is not a baby. If you drop that, your mother is going to leave me. And I have, these are new hardwood floors. Do not drop the bleach. Now, parents, when you tell your kids to do something, what percentage of the time do they not listen to you? 90, that's better than ours. Ours is 100%. They always. And so she's like rocking this. I'm like, don't drop it. Don't move. And guess what she did? Dropped it. And it was an off-brand of bleach because we is cheap up in our house. And so the cap flipped off and bleach went all around Nora. She's standing in bleach. My new hardwood floor had bleach on it. That doesn't really matter, but it kind of matters. And I'm her dad, and Stacy's there too. And we like Patrick Swayze danced into the bleach, grabbed her so fast, and she ended up being fine. Our floor ended up being fine. It was a miracle. But isn't it true that when your kids are sick or hurt, like parents, you will do anything. You will run in bleach to get them. And so this guy in the story, he's an official, but his son is officially sick. So he's going to do anything to help his son, right? And so here's what happens in verse 47. When this official, when he heard that Jesus had come from Judea to Galilee, he went and begged Jesus. He begged Jesus to come to Capernaum to heal his son who was about to die. Now, quick question. Where did Jesus and who did Jesus go to when he had a problem? I'm sorry, I asked that wrong. Where did this guy go to when he had a problem? Jesus. I kind of gave you the answer right away, all right? I'm just trying to lay it up for you. When this guy had a problem, he went to Jesus. And this week I was thinking, like, maybe, what if the miracle that we want in our life, what if we're not getting it because we're not going to Jesus and asking for it? What if it's right there, but we're not going to Jesus and asking for it? And maybe right now you need a miracle in your body. Maybe you need a miracle in your career. Maybe you need a miracle in your kids. Maybe you need a miracle in your marriage. Maybe you need a miracle in your money, in your whatever it is. But here's my question. When was the last time you went to Jesus and asked him for a miracle in that area? Because I wonder if sometimes we're not getting the miracle because we're not going to Jesus and asking for it. And so in this story, this guy, he goes to Jesus and he has a problem. Now, here's the follow-up to that. Jesus, he wants to hear about your problems. He's got all the time in the world to hear about your problems. He created time, so he's got time to hear about your problems. This guy went to Jesus with his problems, but he also told Jesus the plans to fix them. Can you put up the next one? Yeah. He said, Jesus, come to Capernaum. Like, here's our problem. I need you to book a first-class ticket and come to Capernaum. Have you ever given Jesus your problem, but also supplied him generously with the plan that he can do to fix it? Has that ever happened to you? I'm a control freak. Do we have any control freaks in the room? Raise your hand if you're a control freak. If you're raising the hand of the person next to you, you as a control freak. Every September, my family, we go to the Outer Banks, and it's one of my favorite weeks of the entire year. I love it, and we leave our house on a Saturday always, and then we leave there to come back on a Friday. And last year, we were in the Outer Banks, and on the Friday when we were supposed to leave, we were getting hit by a hurricane. And it was like, our house was shaking like it was in the club, okay? Like, it was shaking. And so we normally leave Friday afternoon, but Friday morning when our house was shaking like, it was in the club, I was like, I do not want to stay here until Jim Cantore is reporting live from our living room. And so I had originally planned for us to get home at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I was totally fine with that plan. But when we decided to leave in the morning, I got in the van and I put the address, our home address, into my phone, and it said, you will arrive at your destination at 5:56. And I had one goal, and one goal only. Anybody know what the goal is? To beat that time, okay? I didn't care that we were in the middle of a hurricane. I didn't care that the minivan was going to look like it was in a scene from the movie Twister. We are going to get home at 5:55, or I am not a man. I have got to beat the time. That was my new updated plan, okay? Apparently, it wasn't my family's plan. Because my family's plan was to stop at every single Wawa, Arby's, Bojangles, Tractor Supply store between North Carolina and my house, okay? And so I'll never forget, me and Stacey have gotten like this pretty big argument in some random Virginia Wawa parking lot, all right? We pull up there, and I'm like, I guess we're not going to get home at 5:55. Because somebody needs their green tea again. And the kids have to use the bathroom for the 897th time. I've been holding it for 3 states. I'm willing to go right in the front seat of this van if it will get me at home on time. That was my plan, all right? And my wife, she is so gracious. She's a godly person in her family. She was like, honey, I know that's your new plan, but that may not be everybody's plan. I was like, well, it should be. How many of you ever had a moment like this? You ever had a moment like this? And so I am a control freak, and I think that's what's happening in this story. This guy's like, hey, Jesus, here's my problem. I just need you to fix it by 5:55 p.m. You need to fly to Capernaum. You need to fix it, okay? And sometimes we give Jesus our problem, but we don't really need to give him our exact plan for how to fix it. Isaiah 55 says that his ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. But this guy supplied Jesus with the problem and the plan to fix it. And so in verse 48, Jesus asked, will you never believe in me unless you see miraculous signs and wonders? In other words, Jesus is like, do you really need a miracle to believe in me? Like, what if I don't do the miracle the way that you want the miracle done? Have you ever asked for a miracle and you didn't get it the way you wanted it? This happened to you before? Well, let me ask you this question. Have you ever asked for a miracle back in the day, you didn't get it, and now you look back and you're like, oh, thank goodness you didn't give me what I asked for back in the day? This happened to you before? Some of you, listen, in high school, you were in love. You were in love. The butterflies were flying. You're like, oh, Lord, I need to marry them. They are the one. Would you give me them? I love them so much. And then it didn't work out. But recently you went to your 20-year high school reunion and you saw them. And right there at the reunion, you dropped to your knees. You said, Lord, I dodged a bullet. I will tithe 11%. And so, has this happened to you before? Like you asked for a miracle, but you're like, thank goodness I didn't get what I was wanting back in the day. Listen, Jesus loves you enough to say no sometimes. And so sometimes we don't get the miracle that we want, but Jesus gives us the miracle that we need. A miracle that's sometimes better. And if it's from Jesus, it's always going to be better. It kind of reminds me of when my mom got pneumonia. And my mom, greatest person ever. This was not the Longenberger mom. I have two moms. One was the Longenberger mom, and one was not the Longenberger mom. Both were amazing. This was the spaghetti mom. Made the greatest spaghetti in the world. Moms make the best. Aren't they the best cooks? And so I remember I went to her house a few days, before she had gotten pneumonia, and she made her spaghetti. It was amazing. My mom was doing great. And then she came down with pneumonia, and she was in the hospital. And a bunch of us went to the hospital, and we're like, God, all we want is for you to heal her pneumonia. And so she had pneumonia. She was in there for about a week, and her insurance company was like, all right, we can't keep you at the hospital. So they ended up moving her to the nursing home across the road. And so one day we're all there at the nursing home, and we're like, Lord, would you just take this pneumonia away from her? This is what we all want. And we had the best night with her that night. We were laughing. We were telling stories. My mom, she said some really funny things that night. At one point, she looked at all of us and she said, guys, I see Jesus standing in that corner over there. And we're like, really? What's he look like? And she said, well, he's a whole lot shorter than I thought he'd be. That's funny. I don't care who you are. And she really said that. She was cracking jokes, and for the next day, she passed away. And I remember thinking, God, that's all we wanted was for you to take the pneumonia away. All we wanted for you was for you to heal her. And I never forget just feeling like God said, I did heal her. I did. She is 100% right now. She's in heaven with me, dancing. She's still kind of cracking jokes about my height, but she is good. Sometimes we don't get the miracle that we want. It's so much better than that. God plays the long game. He gives us the miracle that we need. And so don't miss the miracle just because it's not the one you asked for. It's still a miracle. And so Jesus is like, do you need a miracle to believe in me? And so in verse 49, it says this, the official, everybody say the official. The official pleaded, Lord, please come now before my little boy dies. And so, again, I don't think this guy got the hint the first time. He's like, Jesus, here's my problem, and here's my plan. You need to come now. I mean, come on, book the flight to Capernaum. You need to come right now. And this guy is, he's a government official. Everybody say a government official. He is used to calling the shots. He has got a title, buddy. And titles are a big thing. I mentioned to you guys a while back that this summer, my boo thing, my bride, she moved on from me. I used to be her number one. Now I'm, her number two because she has fallen in love with pickleball. And things are getting pretty serious with Stacy and pickleball. This week she said to me, honey, do you think I should buy pickleball shoes? I was like, how much can I make fun of you right now and not get in trouble? Anyway, in our neighborhood, pickleball is all the rage, okay? Our neighbors, they don't care about the speed limit in there anymore. They don't care about the mean geese situation. They care about pickleball. That's all anybody thinks about in our neighborhood. And so one day, Stacy was out playing pickleball with our neighbors, and one of the neighbors that is a bit down the road from us was out there, and so Stacy went up to him and was like, hi, I'm Stacy, I'm your neighbor. And he said, oh, hi. And then he pointed behind Stacy. And she's like, what are you pointing at? And this is what he was pointing at. We'll put this on the screen. He has a plaque on our pickleball courts. Listen, things are serious when there's plaques on the pickleball court. And he's like, this is me. I'm champion and coach. I'm Bob Schaefer. I am an inspiration to us all. He didn't say any of that. Listen, he is an inspiration. He's 91 years old. And he hits that ball like some of y'all hit the Starbucks. I mean, he is like, he should be the pickleball mayor in our neighborhood. He's an amazing guy. But titles are a thing. And so if we can go back to that verse, all right, this guy, he has a title. He is the official, okay? And so even though he's the official, how does he address Jesus? What's this word? Lord. Lord. He just sealed the miracle deal. He got kind of a lot wrong telling Jesus what to do, but he just called Jesus Lord. And let me just tell you, Jesus is not your buddy. He's not a cosmic sugar daddy. He's not your homeboy. He is Lord. And when you get that right, no matter what your title is, you have sealed the deal. That is the most important thing. Because when you get his title right, that he is Lord, you can say, hey, your thoughts and your ways are better than mine. You are in charge. You're in control. You are the leader. You are the sovereign one. You are smarter. You are wiser. You are Lord. And the who matters more than the what. And so, Lord, if you give me what I want, awesome. But you are Lord, even if you don't give me what you want or what I want. And so, you are Lord. Everybody say this with me on 3. You are Lord. 1, 2, 3.
You are Lord.
Okay, let's say it like we believe it. You are Lord on 3. 1, 2, 3.
You are Lord.
He is Lord. And so this guy seals the deal when he says Lord. And so in verse 50, here's the miracle. It says, then Jesus told him, go back home. Your son will live. And the man believed what Jesus said, and he started home. While the man was on his way, some of his servants met him with the news that his son was what? Alive and well. He asked them when the boy had begun to get better, and they replied, yesterday afternoon at 1 o'clock, his fever suddenly disappeared. Now, I always thought that was funny. They knew the time. Like, I think these were the first people who had an Apple Watch, you know? Actually, that was Eve, probably. That was a sympathy laugh. All right. It happened at the same time. Then the father realized that this was the very time Jesus had told him, your son will live, alive and well. There's this theme in the Bible. Maybe you've noticed it. Jesus makes sick and dead people alive and well. I mean, if Jesus walked in here right now and we wanted to freak out the whole town, you know what we should do? We should Uber Jesus down to the Wawa over here where there's that cemetery. Just walk them through it. I mean, this whole town would be like a music video for Thriller, you know, Michael Jackson. Like everybody would come out of the grave alive and well. I mean, Jesus was always making things alive and well that were dead. And it kind of reminds me of the flies in my house this summer. Anybody sick and tired of flies in your house? Anybody? Oh my goodness. I feel like there's a sign over my front door that says, all you flies, come in my house. Just come in and land on my salad while I'm eating it and lay your little fly eggs all over my salad. And maybe you love flies, okay? And maybe you're a fly sympathizer, and we're glad you're here. Our church believes in killing flies. It's in our mission statement, really. When I get to heaven, I'm going to ask God, like, why cats and why flies? That's all I want to know. Oh, some of you didn't go with me on that one. All right, let's move on. All right, we can mess with flies. Don't mess with my cat. So for my son, for his birthday, we got him this fly gun that shoots salt at flies. Have you heard of these? It shoots table salt. Can I show you and you not freak out? Security, stand down. Butch, don't tackle me. This is called the bug assault. It literally shoots table salt. You put table salt in here, or, you maybe sea salt if you're feeling feisty, okay? And when a little fly lands on your salad and you want to send him to fly heaven, what you do is you cock it and you aim at his little 10,000 eyes that are looking at you. And you send that little sucker to fly heaven. And you might be like, don't you feel bad doing that, Pastor? Not even a smidge. I feel elated when I send them to fly heaven. I didn't even really need to bring this, but somebody needed to see this today, okay? Some of you are like, going to look this up. Okay, it's the bug assault. But what's happened a lot this summer is we'll shoot a fly, and it'll go. And then, a minute later, it'll go. And I'm like, don't you do it. Don't you do it. And then it'll go. It'll fly off. It'll come back from fly heaven and re-enter its body and start flying around our house, okay? Anyway, all that to say, sick and dead people in the Bible are like flies in my house. They keep on getting alive and well when they're around Jesus. He keeps doing the impossible. Anyway, maybe there's something that you want so bad in your life right now. You want your marriage to be what it used to be. You want your kids to fall in love with Jesus. You want a clean bill of health. You want depression to go away. You want to beat that addiction. I don't know what it is, but you think that's impossible. It'll never happen. And I just came to church to tell you that when Jesus enters the chat, he can make those things that you think are impossible, that will never come back to life, he can make them alive and well. And so I just want to tell somebody, don't give up on your miracle. Don't give up on your miracle. Don't give up on your miracle. I don't know what it is, but I do know that Jesus has a pattern of making things alive and well, and you go to him with the problem, and you trust in his plan. But in this story, there's that miracle. But there's a second miracle. Jesus saves the best for last. Remember the water and the wine? And so there's another miracle. And so let's look at the last miracle. In verse 53, it says, and he, the government official, and his entire household believed in Jesus. The greatest miracle you can have happen in your life is you believing in Jesus. It gets no better. That is the greatest miracle of all time when you believe in Jesus. Even if you walk out of here, okay, ladies, okay, single ladies, you walk out of here, let's say you run into a single guy and he is good looking and he has a job and a six-pack. Some of you are like, preach it. Or let's say you walk out of here and you see a $500 gift card to 1776. Come on, somebody. Or maybe your phone rings when you're walking up those stairs and it's your bank and they say, hey, we made a mistake. We put $8 million into your account. And for the inconvenience, we're just going to leave it there. Some of you are like, I'm taking my phone off silent right now. As great as all those miracles would be, the greatest miracle that can happen in your life is for you to believe in Jesus. And it's not a back in the day thing. Some of you started believing in Jesus 10 years ago. Some of you 10 days ago. Some of you it's going to be today. And it is the greatest miracle that can ever happen in your life. And I'm going to end by illustrating why it's the greatest miracle. Let's say in 3 minutes, you're upstairs and you're getting in your Prius. Woo! And you get in your Prius and you put down your window and you pull out on the Route 1 and you put down your window because maybe it's, you just kind of cool it down, or maybe you want your hair to blow in the wind. It must be nice. Must be nice. And you're listening to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, running down a dream. You're not running anywhere, though, because you're stuck behind a Pennsylvania license plate with a Salt Life sticker on the back of it. Mark, do you have a Salt Life sticker on your car? No, see. I didn't mean to stereotype, We can get you one. You'll fit right in. But you're stuck in traffic, but life is good. You're listening to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. But then, because your windows are down in your Prius, a bee flies in your window. And you start freaking out because there's a bee in your car now. And you're screaming, and your kids are screaming, and then your elbow slips off the little Prius side, and it hits the windows, and all the windows go up, and you're like, oh, no. And your wife is like, honey, get the bug assault gun. And you're like, I didn't buy it. And then in your greatest moment of bravery, you're like, I can fix this. And you reach out and you grab the bee. And you say, bee, give me your worst. And it stings you. And you go, ah. But then you release it back into the car. And the kids start screaming again. And the mom starts screaming again. And you're like, don't worry, don't worry. The stinger is in my hands. And the crowd goes wild. In that story, Jesus is the one who grabbed the bee. He's the one who grabbed the bee because sin makes us dead meat. Sin makes us a goner. The Bible says that the penalty of sin is death. The sin sting is real. But on the cross, Jesus reached out and he grabbed the bee. He grabbed the sin. So that when we believe in him, we can say, oh, death, where is your sting? It's in Jesus' hand. That's why Jesus, believing in him, is the greatest miracle. And aren't you thankful for Jesus grabbing the bee? It's the greatest miracle. So I hope you get your miracle. I do. But the greatest miracle is for you to believe in Jesus. And if you never crossed that line of faith, today's the perfect day for it. And so if you guys could just bow your heads, and I just want to give you that opportunity. If Jesus grabbed the bee, he grabbed the sin sting, all you have to do is believe in him and say, you are the Son of God, and I believe you grabbed that sin sting and you gave me forgiveness. And so if you want to receive Jesus today, and you never received him before, if you want to receive Jesus today, would you just raise your hand so I can see it? Nobody else is looking around, but would you raise your hand? I see these hands in the room. We're just going to say this prayer out loud, and if you just raise your hand, I want you to say this, and if you are a Jesus follower, just say this with me. Dear Lord, today I'm choosing to believe in you as the Son of God. I believe you died on the cross to grab the sting of sin so I could be forgiven. I receive that forgiveness today, and I choose to believe in you. Thank you, Jesus, for saving me. In Jesus' name, and everybody said, amen, amen.